All right. Hold up. You don't know what I'm gonna say. I know you think you know, but you don't, okay? Okay, I'm fucking racist. You probably clicked on the video in regards to the title kind of being a little bit unhinged, but it isn't clickbait. Let me explain. I have a problem with taking old characters and changing their skin color to cater to a specific group of people. Not because I don't want to see minorities represented on screen, but because companies are doing it for the wrong reasons. What is my problem with taking old characters and making them different races? The problem I see with this concept is not in it being done, but why it's being done. At surface level, it is attempting to address the real problem of minorities not being historically represented in pop culture, but the implementation is done in a way that is almost more offensive. Now, before I go fully into my explanation, I want to be very clear. God damn it. My goal is to provide a different perspective than what we typically see in reaction to this type of thing. I'm sure what I'm going to say isn't revolutionary, but I don't think it's said enough. There are many instances with this topic of race swapping classic characters that it gives me a little bit of a weird feeling. We've seen this happen a few times in the past, and the reaction is usually the same, whether it's like with the Ariel situation or with this one in particular. It's whatever, there's a similar reaction that tends to permeate online spaces. It's hard to engage with that weird feeling because the response is likely to be, you are racist. This video is going to hopefully dispel that sentiment and hopefully provide people who feel similarly a concise structure of the idea I am trying to present. This is definitely a minefield of a topic to discuss because on one end you have the weirdos who shit themselves every time they see a black person on screen, and then the other end is what we're talking about today. Companies and the people who buy into the narrative that these companies actually give a fuck about representation. The reason I put both of these groups on the same spectrum is because there is a similarity between both of these two groups and what their focuses are. In the same way that racists focus on race because they are afraid of white erasure, the erasure of the white race, or there's this sentiment online that white people are getting genocided to some degree. Some people believe that, they're just getting taken out of social spaces and stuff like that. There's levels to that shit. I'm not going to talk about it right now because that's a whole nother fucking thing that I'm not really versed on. So we're just not going to deal with that. Companies are also focused on color, but sell it as if they are responding to the grievances of minority communities. And technically they are responding to the representation grievance, but the response is performative at best. Why is the response performative? First, they aren't actually addressing the grievance. The problem isn't that there aren't any black or brown characters in TV shows and movies. The problem is that minority cultures are underrepresented or not represented at all. Or if they were represented in the past, it was done so in a highly offensive light or portrayed by actors who were not of that group. In the past, the only portrayal of minority communities were disgusting caricatures made to directly make fun of the group being portrayed. From things like minstrel shows where white actors would don blackface to portray black people, to creating minority characters but having them played or voiced by people not of that background.
People start pollution. People can stop it.
Minorities don't give a shit if the character on screen is a specific color, if that character doesn't also accurately represent their culture as well. How fucking ignorant to think that slapping a different skin tone on some classic characters would be equivalent in value to creating original characters that make minority communities feel like they are seen and represented. It is just meaningless to take a character, a classic character, and change its skin tone. At this point, we're way past that. Most cultures and most minority groups have people within that group that are not of the same color. The color doesn't have to be the exact same in order for somebody to be from the same culture. There's a lot of light-skinned people who are Native American who are Native American and are of that culture. Look at me. I'm literally not the darkest Native, but there are literally my brothers and sisters are a lot, some of them are darker than me, and we're of the same culture. So it just doesn't make sense to me that companies think that this is the right thing that they need to be doing, just changing the color of the skin, when it's so much more than that. Our cultures aren't boiled down to our skin color. Our cultures are deeper and much more diverse, or much more nuanced than that. And then they post some antagonistic ass shit like this, thinking that they're doing something good.
When I heard this new version of Judy Jetson wouldn't be boy crazy, the only word I had to describe my disgust is jinkies. If there is one thing the internet agrees on, it's that you should never change anything ever. I hope you die. Sincerely, Velma. Well, at least Judy's still white.
They were using this ad to mock the people who criticize shows that do this type of performative action. And to be fair, there are a good amount of people who are just racist, but it's kind of a disgusting reaction when the only reason companies are race swapping characters is because it's an easy cash grab and totally missing the point of what actual representation means. I feel like it's arguably more disrespectful to be a company that makes a show and then spins the wheel of which character are we gonna reskin today, over just being a racist piece of shit. Like, I would almost rather somebody be racist than have a show taking a classic character, throwing a skin color on it, and then talking shit to the fans. It's such a self-righteous like move and such a self-confident thing when they aren't even engaging with the correct solution to the problem they are trying to correct. They want to engage with the problem and correct it, but they're doing it in the most fucked up way they possibly could have. And the most lazy way. Like, it's not like there was a lot of work that went into this. It doesn't seem like there was like, oh, hey, we want to make Velma South Asian. Hey, how about it doesn't even make sense when I'm trying to like give them the benefit of the doubt. If they wanted to represent the South Asian community, they would have not made Velma that character. They would have created a South Asian character and built a different story around it. Like, I don't know. There's just no way to go about this in the way they did it. Like, I can't even help them. I can't help them. Like, it's literally just giving minorities the leftovers of whatever they can find to make money, and then hiding behind the representation argument to use as a shield for any criticism. Because now they can just say, only racist people have a problem with our show. How can companies appropriately address the representation grievance? In the past, they may have been pretty bad, but as for recent times, Disney is kind of doing the best job at creating media that represents minority groups. Even though Disney is a very shitty company in other regards, when it comes to creating movies that represent a culture positively, they are cranking them out. Their Princess and the Frog, Moana, Encanto, the list goes on and on and on. Yes, they are still making a profit off of this problem, but at the very least, they are doing a good job of giving minority communities what they wanted: cultural representation. And personally, I don't really have a problem with them making money off of it, because that's not really the issue at hand. The issue at hand is that they were either making money off of creating these stories and then not using people from that community, or they were making money anyways, making fun of the communities, or just not making anything about the communities. So yeah, I mean, I don't really care about them making money. So as long as they're doing what they need to be doing and doing it in a good way and creating good stories, who cares about them making money? This half-ass shit where companies are just reskinning old characters and then using representation as a shield from criticism may not be fully intentional, but is exactly what they are doing. Now, how do you tell the difference? Because now we have Disney, which is kind of the good spectrum in this scenario, and then other companies who are like HBO Max and Velma on the other side of the spectrum. Like everything in life, there's nuance. So my characterization of this specific situation may not fully map onto other instances, although hopefully I've given enough insight for you to now recognize what the intentions are and how representation can be done right. Not every single instance where an old character is reskinned is going to be with ill intent or with profit as the only motive. Profit is kind of the motive, specifically in regards to the companies, but you know, I understand what I'm saying. Because if companies actually wanted to put in the work to represent minorities positively, they would create original stories that build their cultures up, because culture is deeper than the color of your skin. Yeah, no, it's kind of just a shitty thing to do, to slap a skin color onto something and then be like, oh, hey, yeah, if you don't like what we're doing, then that means you're bad or an asshole or just some shithead that we don't have to listen to. It's like, no, you guys are just fucking dumb. So yeah, what would change my mind? The answer to this question can never be nothing. there always has to be something that can change your mind, because whatever that answer is will also be the reasoning backing your belief. You can't just say that you can never change your mind. What can change your mind is what makes up your mind as well. And this change doesn't necessarily have to be literally like flipping ship and burning the entire last belief, the last state of mind, the last narrative. But it would include me changing one or more of the claims I made above to better fit knowledge that I attain in the future. So in order for me to change my mind, I would have to see that just slapping a new skin tone on old characters does successfully address the grievances of minority groups being underrepresented or misrepresented in the media. That doing this does have equal value to creating original characters that build up minority communities, and that doing this type of shit isn't just to rage bait a real issue to get clicks on a dog shit show that nobody really even asked for. So yeah, if somebody does present me with some evidence that invalidates some of these claims, then I'm totally willing to change my mind. But as far as what I've seen, this is where I'm gonna stand. I don't really think that slapping a skin tone on a skin color on a classic character does anything to help minority groups. If you really wanted to make a change and wanted to put in that work, you need to create new characters that uplift minority groups that you are trying to help. And this whole situation with the Velma shit, and especially with the fact that they dropped an ad kind of poking at the bear, that shit really makes you look like dog shit. Like, it just, it's fucking gross. If you made it this far into my video and still think I'm a racist piece of shit,
At least Judy's still white.